in order for anything to happen, a prosecutor has to do it. Okay, that's the city attorney or the prosecutor, whoever the prosecutor is. It's got to come from a prosecutor. It cannot come from anywhere else. So he's one of the guys you ought to be sending your notice to. Okay, you want to defeat his presumptions. Okay, you want to hold him accountable. He's the guy that's going to initiate anything. Okay, that number one. Number two, if he initiates anything, it's got to go to a court. So the chief judge of that court is the other guy you ought to be noticing. Okay, and holding his feet to the fire. And if that prosecutor initiates something and that chief judge doesn't want to let it go anywhere, well, it ain't going anywhere, right? Isn't that true? That chief judge has got the power to put the kibosh on it just like that. Okay? So that chief judge and that chief prosecutor are two key players. Another three is the chief of police. He is the number three guy, because if some constable decides he wants to do something, well, he's working for the chief of police. That's why they call cops cops, okay? Think about it. Because they work for the chief of police. C-O-P. Okay?
Constable on patrol.
Could be that too. But at any rate, the point is that there's certain people that in order for them to do anything, certain people have to do it. It's not coming from anywhere else. Okay? So those are the people that you need to hold their feet to the fire. And you don't need to worry about it from anywhere else, because nobody else can do it. So anyways, I started sending notice and demands to the Pinal County Sheriff, the Maricopa County Sheriff, the Casa Grande Chief of Police, the Arizona Attorney General, the Chief Judge of the Arizona Supreme Court, and the Phoenix Chief of Police. And those are the people. I was living in Casa Grande at the time, which is 50 miles south of Phoenix. And I was driving into Phoenix every day to go to work at the Phoenix airport. Those are the people that potentially could send someone down to pick me up and kidnap me and do whatever, okay? And so the Arizona Attorney General, okay, you got to understand, the Arizona Attorney General is, any Attorney General is the chief, is the highest law enforcement officer in the state, okay? Same thing in Canada. Whoever the Attorney General is in Alberta is the highest law enforcement officer in Alberta. And so that's where the buck stops. If the Attorney General says it ain't going, well, shit rolls downhill. You know how that works, don't you? What?
I lost you on the last slide. I don't know if it's just me, but I think you moved through this one a bit fast. Is everyone like totally? Would you be open to going to the back to the last slide and just quickly running us back 30 seconds back to the rear? Just following the events.
Police started building a case against me for disturbing the peace.
Right, because you were calling to.
Because I arrested the auctioneer.
Right.
Did
Okay.
they arrest them?
Huh?
Did
No, they didn't even take him into custody.
Oh.
So they actually facilitated the theft of my house.
You wanted them to. So you. This is one where you arrested them on the steps.
Yeah.
Define arrest, like.
I told them they were under arrest. That's all you have to do.
Okay.
You don't have to jump on them and hold them down. If they were running away, then you might. But they weren't trying to get away. So I didn't try to jump on them.
They
Right?
must have thought, what is this quack doing here?
Probably did. But the point is I still told them they were under arrest. They continued on with the auction, and I called the cops to come and take custody of the felon, and the cops
They were
started,
committing a felony.
of course,
Okay.
because they criminally converted me into a corporation. Okay? A U.S. citizen.
Okay.
That's a felony.
Yeah.
They violated my rights under the color of law. That's a felony under United States Code. Okay?
Okay. Just keep going. So you called the police, and then he said no. He started building a case of you about disturbing the peace. So he's going essentially to try to arrest you.
I sent.
Case, right?
Yeah, and they started building a case against me for disturbing the peace. That's right. There was two other guys with me, and they basically hauled them in court, and I don't know if they charged them with something or whatever, but those other guys told me that they were building a case against me. And I sent notice and demands to the police officers and the chief of police, the town attorney, and the judge, okay? Those are the people that make things happen. The chief of police, the town attorney, and the judge. Those are the people right there that make things happen in that town.
And what were those notices demands saying?
typical notice and demand, no different than any other,
Okay.
right? There's no reason to make it any different. I demand you protect my rights. I accept your oath of office. You have no more authority over me than a Walmart rent-a-cop. Why would you make it any different?
Right, you
It's a
probably
nice
have,
notice.
Huh?
It's a good notice.
Yeah, right. What's wrong with that? They sent their straw man a summons to show up in court.
which was the federal citizen they tried to make you into.
Yeah, the all black capital letters.
Right.
I attached the summons and the notice and demands to an affidavit of criminal complaint and recorded it and sent them a copy. These guys have perjured their oath of office and here's proof. Okay? And I sent them a copy. So I attached the notice and demands that I sent and the proof of service, right? So you gotta build a case. So when you send a notice and demand, you send it by registered mail. When you send it by registered mail, you keep copies. And then you get on the post office's website and print off.
Yeah, I've
If
done
you
that
look at
job.
my stuff there, you print off your evidence showing that they received it. You attach your receipts showing that you sent it and everything to build your case, right?
Administrative process.
And so I attached the notice and demands along with the summons to an affidavit of criminal complaint. These guys perjured their oath of office. They're engaged in sedition and treason and et cetera, and recorded it. And once it's recorded, it becomes public policy and send them a copy. Oh, by the way, here's your copy, right?
And you sent it to the people on the next slide.
Huh?
You sent it to all these guys.
I didn't send that to these other people. I just sent notice and demands to these other
Oh, I
people.
see.
And on notice and demand just says that I demand you protect my rights. I demand that you protect me from all foreign agents, including the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, IRS, and any foreign agents that are on the land of Arizona. Okay? And I sent it to the Pinal County Sheriff, the Maricopa County Sheriff, the Casa Grande Chief of Police, Arizona Attorney General, Chief Judge, the Arizona Supreme Court, and the Phoenix Chief of Police, and more. There was a bunch of them.
And then it just ended there.
No. They sent a bounty hunter to my work. But the significance of that, and I never realized that till recently, I was working at the Phoenix airport, okay? How come the chief of police didn't send one of his police officers down there? I'll tell you why he
They
didn't.
have no jurisdiction.
Airport is not,
Well, actually, the Phoenix, the airport, there's airport police.
it's neutral territory. It's not really in the United States, it's out of the States.
Is it in?
Well, you see the police, the Phoenix police at the airport all the time.
But is it an international airport?
Yes, it is.
Oh, then that's,
But you see the Phoenix police at the airport all the time. The bottom line is that the reason the Phoenix police didn't come to see me is because I sent the chief of police one of my notice and demands. So if they did, I'd have proof that he perjured his oath of office, and he knew it. And so he didn't want to have anything to do with this
Yeah,
case.
he was involved in it, so at that point, so it would have, he would have been basically,
Then the
Bounty
Phoenix
hunters.
airport's in Maricopa County. There was no Maricopa County sheriff that came. Again, that's Joe Arpaio. Okay, you ever heard of Joe Arpaio, the Maricopa County sheriff? He's a real pit bull, I'll tell you. He really goes on criminals, and he should be. And he wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. The Casa Grande police, I was living in Casa Grande at the time, although, the only address they ever have for me is a private mailbox, so they probably didn't know where I was living. And, but even then, they probably saw me driving around. They never bothered me again because I noticed them. I put them in the position that they had to send a bounty hunter. And a bounty hunter, I can't notice every bounty hunter. You see what I'm saying? And so they sent a bounty hunter. And the reason I know that is that it was on a Friday before Memorial Day weekend in 2005. And this is because they keep you in jail for 3 days. The International Monetary Fund pays them $70,000. Anyway, so I left for lunch. I came back from lunch, and my coworkers told me there was a big guy there looking for me. I was already preparing a lawsuit. I had already called up the court, and the court had told me they'd issued a warrant. And so I knew they'd issued a warrant. I knew the warrants had to season for a period of time before they do anything, but I expected them to be doing something. So what I did was, I was preparing a lawsuit. I was already preparing a lawsuit. I knew that I was going to have to file a lawsuit. And so I had sent notices to the chief judge, and I think I'd even sent notices to all the judges on the Supreme Court. There's only like 5 or 6. So anyways, what happened is my coworkers told me there's a big guy looking for me, right? And so I left work early that day and decided to take a week's vacation. And I was driving out of the parking lot, and I passed this guy, this bounty hunter, in a yellow van that was all cased in inside. And so it wasn't a police vehicle, it was a yellow van that's all cased in inside. That's a bounty hunter. And I was already preparing a lawsuit, so I finished the lawsuit over the weekend. The following Tuesday, Monday was a holiday, so the following Tuesday I filed my lawsuit, and then I went and I got the case number, and then I sent the chief judge of the Supreme Court another notice and demand. And in that notice and demand, I told the chief judge of the Supreme Court that there's a criminal racketeering enterprise operating in the town of Florence, that they had sent their hired thugs looking for me under a warrant for arrest for their strawman vessel, and I demanded that she quash the warrant for the arrest of the strawman vessel because, quote, we all know that the corporate commercial agents, the police, in brackets, are too stupid to tell the difference between a strawman vessel and a sovereign willing soul, unquote. And I said, furthermore, Chief Judge, I filed this lawsuit, and you're named in it, and this is the case number, and you'll be served with it soon enough, but if you fail to quash the warrant for the arrest of the strawman vessel, it'll be further proof of your dereliction of duty to regulate your subordinates. Serious.
Nice.
That's what I said. And so, she quashed the warrant. Actually, I'm not sure that she quashed the warrant. I think she more like issued some clarification or something, maybe a restraining order against doing anything to a living soul, just to make sure it was just the corporation they do something to. Because the cops never showed up again. Never heard from them. Never saw them. Never bothered me. But that warrant stayed out there. And I know it stayed out there till like about within the last year. And I know it's gone now. But that warrant was out there for a while, and I actually got a letter from the, after my vacation I went to work and nobody ever came looking for me again. The Attorney General responded for the Chief Judge in the lawsuit. The Attorney General said it's perfectly appropriate that I petition the Chief Judge to get the warrant quashed. That's true. But that warrant actually stayed out there until last spring. And what happened is, I'd been sending them stuff periodically from time to time. I was living in Texas, so there wasn't like it was a big issue. What happened was the town attorney, this guy by the name of James Minato, sent me a letter saying that this warrant is out there and it's going to stay out there forever. And you need to come in and take care of this. And then last spring I actually called him up and talked to him, and I said, look, you want $350 to make this thing go away, I'll come in and pay the $350. I just got a $75,000 settlement from an insurance company, so I figured, well, I can afford $350 right now. And so, that's when he told me that, yes, the $350 is bail, but you still got to show up for a hearing and all that stuff. So it'll only settle it for now, and ultimately you're going to have to show up for a trial. And so I said, well, I'm not interested in this, is a bunch of garbage. And so anyways, what I did was I filed another notice and demand with the judge and the prosecutor, and this time I went and got a Dun & Bradstreet printout. I went and paid for a credit report for the town of Florence. And it showed, actually it was for Arizona courts, okay? And it showed that they're a for-profit corporation and in business to make a profit. And I showed them, I sent a copy of that thing in this next notice and demand, and I said, you guys have no authority, you're in business to make a profit. You're not unbiased, you're not fair, you're just a bunch of thieves. And anyways, it disappeared, okay? And I can tell you it did, because I've in the past I'd get a job, you know, working on a classified military program, and they do a background check. And that thing would always show up, okay? It's just a warrant that was out there, and they didn't really care about it, but it didn't show up. And but recently, I got a part-time job doing working on a military program in Fort Worth, and what happened is it didn't show up anymore. It's gone. The credit report was clean.
What would have happened if you were there when the bounty hunter came?
No, they were
Probably would have arrested me, and I would have had to go and spend 3 days in jail, and then go to some hearing on the following Tuesday. Why? What do you think would have happened?
I don't know, I'm
I
just
mean,
curious.
hello?
Yeah, you're
Yes.
there.
What if
Yeah.
you didn't admit that you were, if they said, well, we're looking for so-and-so, I don't know, he's not here. Or something like that,
No, they have
Yeah.
a picture of you.
because he doesn't know who.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's hard to say.
And another thing, for the warrant, did you ever get a copy of that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
get
I
a
did.
copy?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, the attorney sent me a copy.
Oh, okay.
And I attached that to a criminal complaint. Anyways, I've got copies of that stuff I sent, and I can show it to you if you're interested, or email it to you.
But you didn't get your house back.
No, I didn't know. And so, I could sue them still. I'll have to think about that. That might be something worth doing,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Especially now that that
It's
warrant's
all
all gone.
fraud.
Huh? It's all a fraud.
I always look back, I lost one
And they
too that
perjured
way.
their oath of office by not taking, I mean, now it's forever decided that it never can be decided because they let this felon go. You see what I'm saying? It'll never be heard by a court, because who knows who it was, you know what I mean? They let him go. Cops did that, they perjured their oath. You know, I think that might be something worth thinking about. But, you know, let's face it, you gotta pick your battles. You can only fight one battle at a time. I got certainly a good battle I'm fighting right now. Seems like it's one after the next. Anyways, on 11th of May 2009, I received a photo radar ticket from the Arizona Department of Public Safety. My son was driving my truck in Arizona. I was actually in New York at the time. I rejected their offer of contract, sent notice and demands to the court, the judge, and the mayor, and the case disappeared. And the reason I know it disappeared is because 2 or 3 years ago I got in a car accident, and they actually pulled up that warrant, and I still remember. Right, I still remember. I got in this car accident. Right, it's in Arizona. This lady makes an illegal left turn. She broadsides me. It's my truck, right, and it basically blows out my back tire. I can't go anywhere. Her car's just about totaled, and I'm there on the side of the road. I had a U-Haul behind me that got a whole bunch of damage to it. Fortunately, I got insurance for that. Anyways, the cops come, right? They pull up this warrant in their computer. I hear them on the radio talking about this warrant, and then they say, but we don't want to extradite. Well, I was in Pinal County, right? It was the Pinal County Sheriff that came to the car accident. Florence is the county seat for Pinal County. Why would they have to extradite? Think about it. I could see from another county or maybe from another town or something like that. You see what I'm saying? But it was the Pinal County Sheriff. And Florence was the county seat for Pinal County. And Florence is where it had issued the warrant. You see what I'm saying? And here they're saying on the radio, we don't want to extradite. Anyways, the county sheriff made all sorts of threats. But at the end of the day, I drove away that day. And that was the end of it. And the county sheriff says, you need to take care of this. And I did. I sent them all notice and demands. I said, I will take care of it. Don't you worry about that. But so it's pretty interesting to see this stuff happen because in that accident, believe it or not, I told them I didn't have a driver's license. And I had court cases saying that there's no such thing as a driver's license under Texas law. And so I said, there's no such thing as a driver's license under Texas law. Here's some court cases to talk about it. And then I overheard the cops talking later. So what happened is it was like a regular constable that came out there. I don't know, he was whatever they have is the lowest rank. Anyways, so immediately he calls out, there's a sergeant that shows up there. And I hear these two talking. And the sergeant says, well, I guess there's no such thing as a driver's license under Texas law. Anyways, and that's when the warrant shows up, and that's when they're making all these threats, and at the end of the day, I just drive away, you know what I mean? And so then what happened is I had a rental car, right? You can't rent a car unless you produce a driver's license. And so that's why these photo radar tickets, I got some more photo radar tickets. And that's, whoops. Oh, yeah. Wrong one. There we go. Okay. That's the car accident. Nelson used to get stopped by my truck was in my strawman's name. It was a black Dodge 4x4 pickup truck.
Who's Nelson?
Nelson is my son.
Oh,
And he's a teenager, you know, he used to like to spin the tires. I'll tell you, that kid, you went through so many tires. I used to get on his case about that stuff. You knew he was spinning the tires. And he was pushing himself. One time he ran into a curb, probably because he was nodding off or something like that. He didn't do drugs or anything like that. I know he didn't. He still doesn't. He's really a good kid, you know. But so anyways, the cops stop him every once in a while for whatever. And they'd always say, who owns this truck? And he'd say, my dad. And they would never give him a ticket. You know, never give him a ticket. Anyways, on the 22nd of February, the Arizona DPS sent their strawman a photo radar ticket. And that's what happened when I had that car accident. So my truck was in the body shop. I had to rent a car. You cannot get a rental car unless you produce a driver's license. So they sent this photo radar ticket to the rental company, and the rental company sent it on to me, right? So, because they had the driver's license. So what am I gonna do? It's an Arizona driver's license. So anyways, so what I did is I was a little bit frustrated at that point, you know, all this shit going down. So I sent notice and demands to the DPS officer, that's the Department of Public Safety, the Director of Public Safety, the Attorney General, and the judge. And then, usually I wait 30 days and then file a criminal complaint, attach it all and file a criminal complaint. I didn't even do that. I filed a criminal complaint immediately against all of them for perjury of oath, treason, sedition, etc. They canceled the photo radar program in Arizona. Serious. Now, who knows whether it was because of something I did or something else, but the whole photo radar program in Arizona got canceled. And Arizona Attorney General Terry Goddard, he was the Attorney General. He's no longer in office. He got removed. And now it's Tom Horn, who's a former judge. They sent me notice that they were canceling the strawman's driver's license, which is not here. Actually, that is right here. You can pass this around if you like. This was a notice that I got for a ticket, where they were saying that we've received your correspondence entitled Affidavit of Criminal Complaint, your request is denied. And then, if you look on this thing, look on the page, and we're going to show that here in a minute. This is exactly how I got it, okay? Well, this paragraph talks about, I understand the failure to comply with the payment of this order may result in issue of a warrant for my arrest. Well, they scribbled that one out. And then it says a warrant for your arrest may be issued by the court. They scribbled that one out. And it said driving a license is a privilege and can be suspended. You must pay the fine, and if you fail to comply, you may be held in contempt. And then they just wanted $251. Eh? They just want the money. Anyways, so that's what they sent, and you can pass it around and take a look at it if you like. But so, anyways, and that's this. See, and there we have the scriggled, okay?
So they scribbled that out?
Yeah, they did, yeah, not me. And there it is right there, you'll look at it.
could you go back to the previous one?
Huh?
Could you go back to the previous one? Previous slide? There. What, this is that box on the top, mailed to where?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the straw man's
It's in
name.
a box.
Yeah, there's nothing
So
there,
it's
is
not
there?
even there.
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing how that works. But the straw man's name is there. I don't know why they put it in both places like that.
Yeah, I think
Is it the same in both?
Huh?
Is it the same in both?
Yeah.
what does
Well,
this
there's gotta be
say,
some
Bob?
difference.
What's
No,
that?
it is the same. Oh, it's probably because of the envelope, maybe, it had a window there.
Well, one is in a box and one isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's that say on the bottom of the box then?
Where? Right
Wait,
there?
no, up. In the
That's the
box.
same,
In the
It
box.
says Casa Grande.
In the box, yeah.
Yeah,
what's
right
that
there, that's,
That's just
One
Casa
says
Grande.
mail
It's the
to.
same thing as that right
Oh,
here.
the same as,
Name of
okay.
the town.
Yeah, but it says mail to.
That is interesting.
That's weird.
So anyways, this is a letter the Arizona Department of Transportation sent And it's basically says that this was after that. It says the Office of the Inspector General has discovered a discrepancy, and it's important, they wanted me to go down there. And it says if you're not born in the United States, you're not a citizen of the United States, they want me to come down and prove I'm a US citizen. Okay? And of course, I'm not gonna do that, because I said in my affidavit, I'm not one of your low-life scumbag US citizen slaves. And so they want me to come down and prove I'm a US citizen. I never did, but they also said, look at here, it says, no response to the request will request your license being canceled or other appropriate criminal charges being filed. Well, no criminal charges were filed and the license wasn't canceled because I went and put my truck in a trust in Arizona, and they pulled up the straw man's license when I was doing that, and it was perfectly fine. Matter of fact, I got stopped last Christmas by an Arizona DPS officer, and he pulled up the license, no problem. And that's when he said, why don't you just make up your own plates and put it on here? You know, really, seriously, Arizona DPS officer said that. Why don't you just make up your own plates and put them on
You
here?
just said, you should have said, well, what do you suggest?
Well,
Was he being facetious or?
no, I'm serious.
Yeah?
No, seriously. Because of that, remember that Wayne Stump letter? That's Arizona too.
Yeah.
I'm sure they know all about that. I'm sure they do.
I
See,
don't know, well,
he didn't say you should put your own plates on here. He asked a question,
Yeah, well,
which is very important,
Yeah.
because then he
Yeah.
doesn't have the liability of making the
Yeah.
statement.
maybe. Anyways, this is from the internet, a website that Arizona shuts down freeway speed cameras.
They should do that here.
down here in Florida.
In July of 2010, the Lethbridge Police stopped me and gave me a ticket, or a straw man ticket for no driver's license. There's no requirement in Alberta for a living soul to get a driver's license. I filed 3 criminal complaints against them, then filed a petition of right in the Court of Queen's Bench with criminal complaints attached. The perjurer on the bench entered a plea for the straw man to set it down for trial. I told them my criminal complaints, I don't take orders from criminals and will not appear in their show trial. I did not appear for their show trial. They convicted their straw man and the fine was $172, the same as the ticket. I called up the clerk and asked if they had issued a warrant, and they said no. They said it would be handled by motor vehicles. In other words, it's the same old stuff. What it says right on the ticket, it says if you don't pay the fine, then we're not gonna let you renew your license or renew your registration until you do pay the fine plus penalties.
Yeah,
And
I
so
have
that's
one.
all they do,
Yeah, I have one of those right now,
right?
and my license is due in January.
Yeah, right, so.
Well, you gotta- you
So
gotta
they'll,
pay.
they'll stick it to you then,
Yeah,
you know?
you gotta pay.
Either that or just don't renew the license, you know? I mean, it's all commercial. Actually, Alberta is probably better than most in that respect, because in other states, they break your door down in the middle of the night to finish that commercial transaction. You know what I mean?
What do
Just
they do here?
They don't come breaking your door down in the middle of the
They
night.
just wait
No,
till your
they do
registration
here.
runs out.
Oh, they do?
They get you.
Oh, yeah, they have a certain type of a month they'll take, and they'll tell the people to come and pay up their debts, or they'll come looking for them. They've been
Yeah.
pulling them off,
Well-
job sites.
The clerk said that they wouldn't be issuing a warrant, you know, so anyways. If you read the bottom of the fine print in the citation, it says, if you fail to respond to this offense notice as required by law by the appearance date indicated above, or if you plead not guilty and fail to appear in person or by agent on your trial date, you will be deemed not to dispute the charge and you may be convicted of the offense in your absence without a hearing. If you are convicted until the fine plus any late payment fees, charges are paid in full, you will not be allowed to obtain or renew a driver's license or motor vehicle license. And that's it, that's all it says. And so, for that particular thing, you know, I don't know, some things, maybe they do come and break your door down, but for a minor traffic violation, you know, that's all that happens. Now, and what I see, I filed that lawsuit, well, I think that the reason, the defect in my lawsuit was that I didn't ask the judge for the right things. And so, that's why I think by asking the judge, in this case, for a writ of prohibition, is gonna be more direct and to the point, and it's something that he can grant. You see what I'm saying? And so, that, you know, that'll be the solution in this case, I think, for this issue with customs. And so, I guess we'll see. In the other one, I basically sued him. It was a, you know, I didn't call it a counterclaim. You know, there was some defects, there was some things that I probably did wrong, but, you know, you live and learn, don't you? In the July 2010, on my way back from a private information share at Vernon, BC, I got stopped by the Calgary City Police. And what happened there was the cop stops me. He was on the south side of McLeod Trail, right? And so it's a place where traffic naturally speeds up. So and there's a tree there, and he's hiding behind this tree and comes out. Anyways, it's basically a radar trap in my opinion. But so he comes out and waves me over. So I pulled over. And we went through the same old thing. I told him, well, there's no such thing as a driver's license under Texas law. And he says, well, you're in Alberta. And I says, yeah, but Alberta recognizes Texas law. And so then he says, well, have you got any ID? And I said, yes, I do. And I showed him my photo ID affidavit. And he looks at that and he says, is there a birth date on here? And I said, I have no first-hand knowledge of date of birth. Do you remember your date of birth? And so then he takes it and you know, this was, by then they had my license plate and stuff in the system, and so they knew who I was. And in the lawsuit, I complained about the Lethbridge police where there was like 4 cop cars and there was cherries going all over the place and it's just like a circus. And so there was no cop cars. There was other cop cars, but they were like across the street and down the road. And so the guy's supervisor was there, but there was no cherries going anywhere. And they were just sitting there, you know, and they were like ghost cars. You know what I mean? So anyways, he comes back and talks to me a few times, and he says, well, have you got registration insurance? I said, I might have. I said, have you got a court order? And he says, no. He says, but unless you give it to me, I'm going to seize your truck. And I says, well, I said, you can do just about anything you want. You got the gun. I said, but if you violate my rights, you need to be prepared to go all the way and take me over there and blow my brains out, because by the time I'm done with you, you're going to wish you did, and I'll do it all within the law. And he didn't seize my truck.
I was okay, go on your way, sir, on your way.
So anyways, but in the process, I told him, I don't want you to think that I don't appreciate the work you do, you know, because I do. You know, we need people to hunt down murderers and thieves, and I didn't tell him, but I wanted to. But I usually try and tell them that I don't have any idea what you make, but in my opinion, it's not enough. But I didn't tell them that part. But I did tell them that I don't want you to think that I don't appreciate the work you do. And because we need people to hunt down murderers and thieves. And so anyways, at the end, he comes back with my paperwork and gives it to me. And he says, okay, you're free to go. And he says, and I want you to know that I appreciate your comments about appreciating the work we do. And you know, he did. And because I told him that I appreciate the work you do, I'm just trying to protect my rights. You know what I mean? And you know, so he was probably a pretty good guy. He says, well, I've been working for the police for 14 years and all this other stuff, you know. And that's all well and fine. But you know, so anyways, that's what happened essentially, and nothing happened. Then another time, I was on the freeway on Highway 2 near Olds, and the Alberta sheriff stopped me, and I went to pull out my photo ID affidavit. He says, I don't care about that, and I tried to tell him that I served a notice on your boss. I don't care about that. And I just like went ballistic, and I says, well, you know, if you're going to violate my rights, then you need to be able to take me over there and blow my brains out, because by the time I'm done with you, you're going to wish you did, and I'll do it all within the law. And that's when he said, no thanks. and so I had given him my photo ID affidavit. He says, is this the correct address? And I says, yeah, and it's not. Anyways, he made up a ticket.
Is it a box number?
It's a private mailbox in Arizona, but it's not even any good anymore. In Arizona, what you do is you can just notify them online of a change of address, and they'll never change the driver's license unless you really want to get it changed. You see what I'm saying? So the driver's license has an address on there that I haven't used in years. And, you know, they don't care, I don't care, you know.
And he's just got to fill out his 5 boxes, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, so he made out a ticket and give it to me, and that's when, and I took his ticket, and I made up a criminal complaint, because I'd already served a notice on the Solicitor General, and I sent it to the Queen. Along with stuff on this lawsuit, I sent the Queen a whole bunch of stuff, and that's the basis for this criminal complaint, actually, right here. And so I'm sure the Queen's going to like getting this. But so anyways, the bottom line is that, you know, that one was actually stupidity because I was speeding. I wasn't even paying attention to the speed or who was around me or anything, and I sped right past the cop, eh? Well, what do you expect? He's gonna stop you, you know, hello, the lights are on, is anybody home?
Do you ever get a ticket when they stop you with no license and whatnot, and then they tow your vehicle?
No, I never had that happen.
Oh, you never had it?
The affidavit of,
Because a lot of times when no license, they automatically, it's a tow.
Well, again, I think if you notice them,
Yeah.
okay,
Well, okay, so that would have to be before,
right?
they would have to phone in to get the notice.
I think, you know, when he stopped me, he sat back there for about 20 minutes.
Oh,
And I think what happened is, he already knew who I was.
okay, yeah.
So they call the prosecutor.
He's
Who
called.
knows? That's right.
They call the prosecutor.
One of those stops, I thought one of them told you that they had you in the computer as a son.
In the States,
Oh, I thought that was.
Not here.
Canada.
That was the FBI
Not
in the
here.
States, right?
yeah, yeah.
So on this document here, there's a box on the bottom. I certified that I mailed this copy of this minute entry to so-and-so. There is no address. Oh, state an address, but it's not even check marked, so it's not even, there's nothing there.
I can tell you that case disappeared, you know, again, I got stopped last January by a cop for speeding again. And that didn't show up, the other one didn't show up, none of that stuff showed up. And the only thing that showed up was the warrant, okay? When that cop, and this was in Benson, Arizona, which is I-10, southern Arizona, he stops me, and I was like at a McDonald's. And he pulled up the warrant, right? And he was laughing about it. He thought it was a joke, eh? He said, yeah, he says, the town of Florence has got this warrant out for you, but they don't want to extradite, eh? And he was just laughing about it. He thought it was a joke, eh? And so, I mean, this thing had been out for, by then, it was like 6 years probably, you know what I mean?
So did you ever ask them for their ID?
No.
No?
you mentioned in the story, an affidavit of photo what? Say it again? Affidavit of photo ID or something?
Oh, photo ID affidavit, right.
What is that? Can you expand on that?
It's in my truck. I'll bring it in here. If you want to take a little break, I'll go out and get one. Get it. We need to get moving though, because we got a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
don't
trail
want to slow
cover
things
still.
down.
Huh?
I don't want to slow things down, so don't, maybe after.
I got it digital. Larry's seen it. It's a apostille that's certified. I'll bring it in before we leave. Everybody can look at it.
Sure.
Don't let me forget though, okay?
Okay.
Okay. There are at least 2 and possibly more classes of citizenship in all common law countries. The government has made perfectly good laws that are technically correct 99% of the time. Because we have all given our servants in the government the right to presume certain things, the burden is now on us to defeat those presumptions. 99% of the time, their presumptions are based on evidence that we gave them. You know, really, we've done this to ourselves. The best way to defeat any presumption is go on the attack. Presumptions are taken in martial law. The fact they're presuming anything is proof that you're in a martial law jurisdiction and they now have no authority. Right now, we have provided the government reason to believe that we are not sovereign. The government is operating on the assumption based on prima facie evidence that we ourselves provided. Qualified immunity protects government officials from liability for civil damages insofar as their conduct does not violate clearly established statutory or constitutional rights of which a reasonable person would have known. Qualified immunity defense fails if public officer violates clearly established right because a reasonably competent official should know the law governing his conduct. A plaintiff who seeks damages for violation of constitutional rights or statutory rights may overcome the defendant's official qualified immunity only by showing that those rights were clearly established at the time of the conduct at issue. And again, that's true, okay? And that's the purpose of these notices. You want to pierce that qualified immunity. And so by doing that, you have a chance. We have to build a prima facie case that is admissible as evidence in court that we're sovereign. In today's world, to be truly sovereign, you must be prepared to force the issue up to and including court. In Rome, they had slaves because they were not prepared to live free or die. In the modern world, you do not have to die for your freedom, but the attitude helps. So, the number one rule is education. Educate yourself. And you're doing that right now. We're in this position because our parents and grandparents did not understand the issues. You got to study out the issues. The buck stops here. That's rule number 2. The ultimately responsibility rests with you. I cannot assert your rights. You have to assert them. You must accept responsibility for your actions. You must prepare for your future. Sovereign citizens receive nothing from the government. If you do nothing, then you're at least partially responsible when they violate the next guy's rights. Think about that. All it takes for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And so, and that's all the more reason why when they violate your rights, you have to challenge it. Because otherwise they violate the next guy's rights, then you're at least partially responsible. Think about it. The important thing is do something. It is not necessarily to use the forms as they are. Make up your own if you want. The following process builds a track record and a case showing your assertion, which is admissible as evidence in court. They already know you're sovereign. You just have to say the words 9 times out of 10. But if you want to make it so that you can pierce their immunity and get some money out of them and really hurt them, okay? And that's the criminals, you know, 99% of the time, most of them are just honest, hardworking people, and they really wouldn't do anything. But the criminals, those are the ones that you really want to hurt, okay? And the only way you're going to hurt them is if you can pierce their immunity. This procedure builds a case against your public servant for multiple felonies. They will never do anything that comes close to admitting they've committed multiple felonies. If this procedure is done properly, they will take care of it for you. You will rarely get a response if you learn to read between the lines. If they do send a response, if they do not send a response, then they have acquiesced. How I developed the system is the foreclosure in Arizona that we already talked about, the disturbing the peace, and I've sent out literally hundreds of registered letters. I sent out registered letters to every member of the U.S. Senate. They're Dear Perjurer letters, actually. I sent out Dear Perjurer letters to every member of the U.S. House of Representatives. Well, actually, not everyone, about 135 until I ran out of money. I mean, I have sent out literally hundreds of these letters. I'm serious. So, what it is a notice and demand, okay? The reason it's a notice and demand is notice is common law, okay? Everything is notice. The speed limit sign, that's them, common law noticing you that there's a speed. And if they don't notice you, you can't be held responsible. Well, same thing applies. If you don't notice them, they can't be held responsible. So you got to notice them. You're giving them notice. You cannot hold them responsible until you give them notice. Demand. Sovereigns demand. You know, I never realized the significance of that till I thought about Grace McLeod's the one that said it. And then I thought, well, you know, I was in the Canadian Armed Forces way back when, you know, 1978. And I remember getting this piece of paper. It was a demand. It said demand written across the top. And I had to go do something, so I went and did it. But the point is that I never realized the significance of a demand. And that's true. You know, sovereigns demand. It's not negotiable. I demand it. Now. This is called administrative procedure. It's also common law. It gives notice to the authorities about your assertion and gives them an opportunity to rebut it. And it defeats their presumptions. The first thing that I put, okay, the first paragraph that I put in my notice and demand is an oath of office, okay? I accept your oath of office.
I just, before I forget, when you mentioned that, I didn't realize you were in the armed forces.
Yeah.
You know that you can go to any, and I repeat, any union hall, you can tell them that you're in the armed forces and you immediately go to the top of the board so that the next guy hired has to be you.
Is that right?
That's a fact. I got a guy that was in the Army Reserves here. He got a job on the power lines here. He's making like, it's just crazy stupid. He's making about $7,000-8,000 a week. And
wow.
He went to the top of the list and he had no experience.
Really?
And they had to hire him because he's Army Reserve. They get the jobs first, ahead of everybody.
Really?
So you need to go into a union hall that hires for your type of work, and you tell them that you are Army retired or former. Immediately you go to the top of the list and you get hired.
Well, I'm not retired, but I
No,
was in the
no.
Air Force.
But as long as you were in there, then you go to the top of the list, as long as you can show that you have your Army number or whatever it was.
Yeah, well, it's just a SIN number, is all they used.
But
when I
that's
was in
okay, they'll check it and you'll go right to the top of the list. I just thought I should tell you that.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's not too many unions that are in aviation, but I'll have to do, I know there's some, there's a,
Most likely in Calgary.
maybe.
Aeronautical engineers, engineers.
There's
An engineers union.
there's
You go
a,
there and anybody looking for an engineer, you're gonna get the first job.
I know there's some unions in aviation for sure.
Yeah. Well, engineering, period.
Right.
Just go there, take a job in another field if you have to.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I just hate to be in a position where I'm paying taxes again, but it's better to pay taxes and have money than not pay taxes and not have money. You know what I mean?
You know, even Jesus said you'll have to go in and